Namaste. This series, A Carnatic Journey, is an initiative to highlight various aspects of Carnatic music. This series is meant for the listener who's fresh and who's come into listening to Carnatic music recently and would like to know more about this art, and for the young students of music and parents who are trying to imbibe this music for their children. This is for them to know a little more about this art without going into too much of technicalities. At the outset, I want to thank all of you for your enthusiastic response to the introduction of this series. I have received a number of questions and we shall look at those questions and answer them as we proceed in this journey, the Carnatic journey. There are hundreds of genres of music around the globe and each has its own unique identity. All of them give immense joy to their audience. Indian music, as we all know, has ancient roots. It can be traced right up to the Vedic period. Music has flourished in this subcontinent for thousands and thousands of years. Carnatic music, which is South Indian classical music, is a confluence of many unique aspects like melody, raga, tala, which is the rhythm, bhava, which is the emotional quotient. And above all these things, the manodharma also, that is the creative part of music. All these things, all these aspects form this wonderful, divine and beautifully expressive art called Carnatic music. Let us assume that Carnatic music is a train. Though all the compartments look alike, let us now imagine that each of these compartments represent a different aspect of our music. Every time a Rasika, that is a listener, or a student travels in this train, they take a different compartment and then a whole new vista opens up, throwing light to that particular facet which they are looking at and which they are absorbing. This is a never-ending journey, as it is a very dynamic art. It has something unique to offer to everyone who comes across this art. As practitioners of this art, we always remain a student. I remember legendary Sri Semangudi Srinivasa Iyer, who was then in his 90s, saying that he will forever remain a student of this music. That is how unfathomable it is. Though there are various facets to this music, as we already discussed, and we shall be discussing each of them in a little detail, there is one common link between all these facets. Let us say that there is one commonality between all the compartments of this Carnatic train. What is that commonality? It is the Shruti. What is Shruti? In the ancient scriptures, Shruti is described thus: Shruti Mata. It is also said Laya Pita. But first let us come to this Shruti Mata, which means Shruti is the mother. That is how important the Shruti is to our music. What is Shruti? It is a pitch that we decide. Let us say if we want to perform a particular composition, it is this pitch that helps us decide where to take the raga from. In fact, even the swaras are based on this pitch, and if not for this pitch, the swaras will not reveal the right raga. So we can safely say that the ragas were born only because of Shruti. It is fundamental, it is the Adhara. There are much more technicalities involved to Shruti. Spiritual significance is also for the Shruti, but we are not going into all those technicalities. For instance, there are 22 Shrutis. We will look at the Adhara, that is the fundamental Shruti. In classical music, we decide this based on the Shadja. Shadja is one of the notes. We will come to the swaras at a later point of time. For the moment, we will look at Shadja and Panchama, which are the Achala swaras. That means they do not oscillate. Therefore, we can safely use them as the base. So, we have Sa and then we have Pa. So, depending upon what pitch we take, we decide the Sa. So, generally females take a higher pitch. So, they might choose something like G, G sharp, A and so on. Whereas, male, when they sing, they take some Shruti like B or C. So, what happens is we decide the Shruti. For instance, this Shruti that I have taken here, Sa, becomes the bass. And now, I base the entire octave that I am singing. So, Sa, Ri, Ga, Ma, Pa, Da, Ni, Sa, Sa, Ni, Da, Pa, Ma, Ga, Ri, Sa, which is also the major scale in English music. So, we base the entire octave using this Sadja as the fundamental, the principal note. That is what we would say. So, that is the Shruti. The Shruti concept is, as I said, it is very, very deep, and to understand it requires a lot of sadhana, a lot of hard work and practice. So, we can safely say that it is imperative to stay attuned to Shruti, and the success of a concert largely depends upon adherence to Shruti. As a Rasika, if one can attune the ears to the Shruti, you will be able to discern how the Shruti bridges the entire concert and gives a complete effect to the whole concert. Completeness of a concert comes with Shruti adherence. Before I go on to talk about some practice methodology for staying on Shruti and talking to parents on how they can help their children with Shruti adherence, I would like to narrate a short story. There was this little girl. She was only 5.5 years old. In a small town in South India. Her mother was a great musician. This little girl was already into music, she was learning. While children were playing all sorts of games, she had devised a game for herself. It was a tambura game. She learned to tune the tambura. And then she would strum the tambura and start singing. She would sing for a few minutes with the tambura. Then she would leave the tambura behind, move over to another place and sit and sing for a while. After 10 to 15 minutes, she would come back to the tambura to check if she was still on pitch, on the Shruti. What a lovely game this is. How did the child know that this Shruti is the Adharam? It is the most important companion that would come with her all her life. And it was this Shruti that endeared her to millions of people around the world. Yes, you know whom I am talking about. None other than Bharat Ratna Srimati M.S. Amma. Srimati M.S. Subbalakshmi, whom we dearly call M.S. Amma. She as a child had devised this game to show us probably how important Shruti is to this divine art. Now we shall see a few practical tips on how you can help students and your children with Shruti adherence. One of the key things would be for them to stay on the Sajja and the Panchama playing notes as steadily as possible in the beginning. So that is already devised in our lessons. Sa, pa, sa, pa, sa. So this is one of the first lessons that we always teach a student. This is a very important lesson, and as far as possible they should stay on these notes maybe for a few weeks. It's very important. And it's also good that once the guru decides what the Shruti or what is the pitch the child or the student should use for singing, then it is very important that you start playing that pitch at home. Let it be in the corner of a room. Let the child listen to this pitch as far as possible. Let us look at some practical tips for students who are trying to stay on Shruti initially. It is imperative that you first ask your guru to decide which pitch you should use or which Shruti is effective. Because initially when the student starts learning, it's very important that they are able to at least use 2 octaves, that is the Adhara Sajja up to the Tarasthayi Sajja, and then the Panchamam from there and the Mantrasthayi Panchamam. At least this much range, if the student is able to cover, it will be good for them to learn compositions. So first they decide on the Shruti. But one of the first lessons you would have heard the child learn is Sa, pa, sa, pa, sa. You would have seen all children singing this as the, the tuning of the voice, so to say, or tuning for the instrument. It is common. When I say sing, I am also talking about instruments and how the children should learn to tune the instruments. Because even in a concert, if you see, how is the Shruti? The Shruti is the pitch that is decided upon, and all the instruments, whether it is string or whether it's percussion, they all tune their instruments to one particular Shruti. And in an Indian classical music concert, we generally, everybody joins in that Shruti, and that Shruti is the fundamental Shruti that's used mostly throughout the concert, unless there is a tonic shift like you are singing a Madhyama Shruti Kirtana or you are going into Graha Beda or something like that. So first of all, the pitch is decided, so then you can use different instruments. Now there are so many apps for Tambura. You have Tambura Droid, you have Tambura iTambura app, you have Shruti Poti like this, which I don't know if it's still extinct, but I am sure there are many musicians who still use the Shruti Poti. It used to be used by great legends. And then of course the Tambura. So it is very good if you first learn to tune the Tambura, and if you are playing an instrument, it's very important that you learn to tune the instrument to perfection. That's very important. So first you decide the Shruti, and then you can even have the Shruti being played in a corner in the child's room as far as possible, so that the child absorbs the Shruti and gets attuned to listening to that Shruti. Listening, that's very important. Awareness of the Shruti has to be constant. So there is another golden rule that I would like to say. Never ever sing even one small composition without a form of Shruti being played as the Adhara for you. So some form of Shruti, you use any of these, but don't ever sing a composition without the Shruti being played. That is a golden rule I would like everybody to follow. So there are lots of exercises that have been incorporated in our Sarali Varsas and Janta Varsas. We will be looking at them later to see how it can be used for voice training. But for Shruti alignment, let us look at this. We are using the Adhara Sajja. Sa. But even before that, as I mentioned already, just the Sajjam has to be practiced for as many times as possible. Sa. So like this, they can practice each note, sustain on the note and practice this for as many days as possible. This is imperative, and please ask them to record and hear it, also to cross verify with their gurus if they are sustaining it correctly. That is very, very important. So now you see why Shruti is called the Mata, the mother. It is the most important and fundamental aspect in the journey of Carnatic music. I would describe Shruti in 5 M's. It is musical and therefore it gives us all the melody. It is meditative. You can try to meditate with the Tambura Shruti in the corner of the room. It is also medicinal. It has been proved that the Tambura Shruti can cure sleeplessness and it can calm the nerves and bring down blood pressure. And therefore, it is magical. It creates a magical effect in a concert. So with this, we will close the first episode of A Carnatic Journey with Shruti, which is the most important aspect. In fact, in Indian music, if you see Hindustani musicians, they take several months to learn the Shruti and they strum the tambura behind their gurus for years together to align themselves to Shruti. We shall meet again in the Carnatic Express the following Saturday. Thank you. Namaskaram.